Hello and welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock, with new content for you in 2025 every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program because on today's show, the Liberals are continuing their efforts to dig deeper and deeper into your pockets to take every last cent you have so they can spend it on their priorities. To talk about this, much more, we bring on Tracy Gray, the Member of Parliament for Kelowna Lake Country. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
All right. There isn't a tax the Liberals don't love. That is clear. And the harder they make it for people, the more they get upset with people, right? So Canadians say gas prices are too high. Taxes are too high. The carbon tax is driving me into poverty. And the Liberals are like, what are you complaining for? Like, we have the greater good in our grasp, right? Utopia is just on the other side if you just pay more taxes and have more patience. But people are literally lining up to the food bank in record numbers, right? This life is harder under this Liberal government.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, families are being crushed. You've got small businesses that are really struggling. And now we're looking at people's retirements as well, and we're looking at jobs. And one of the areas that we've seen that is really affecting people's decisions is the capital gains tax increase. It's just another tax increase. This is another example. And they're putting this in at a time when, if you look at the OECD, you know, Canada, out of the 38 countries, has slipped down to being one of the lowest in productivity, which means productivity relates to quality of life. So our quality of life has fallen, and the OECD themselves had said that unless there's substantial fiscal and economic policy changes in Canada, we will be at the bottom and will continue so for 40 years. And so this capital gains tax is another example of something that is affecting people's retirements. It's affecting investment, and it's affecting jobs.
So, yeah, and we're not even building stuff in this country anymore, right? Our GDP has gone down, investment's gone down, everything has gone down. Every marker that you would traditionally use to measure how well a country is doing in comparison to others, we are on the way down. And I don't mean to say this in a negative context, because we always want to promote Canada because it is the best country in the world in which to live. But at the same time, these policies being brought in by the NDP and the Liberals are hurting everyday Canadians the most.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking at hurting retirees or those that are wanting to retire soon. We're looking at the working class, which has been some of the hardest hit. When you compare us to the United States, for example, we are now about $22,000 difference for the average income, whereas 9 years ago it was very much on par. So we're slipping in how far our dollar is going.
And most of the investment that we are getting is government investing, right? Like government innovation. We, the government, will decide what we choose as the chosen topic or direction we should be going. And industry, especially the big companies, follow along because they're chasing the money, right? But in return, they're getting barriers to competition. So new entrants into the marketplace have a tougher time and often don't enter the marketplace. So we get more consolidation and more of the fact, you look at our telecom industry, the airline industry, right? The grocery industry. There's a few big ones and very few small ones. And you're a business owner yourself.
Yeah, former business owner, absolutely. And, you know, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur at heart. And that's the lens that I use a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we know that small businesses is the backbone of the country. It's the biggest employer, the most amount of businesses. And small businesses, we know, many of their sales are not up to what they were pre-pandemic. They're still carrying a lot of debt. And increases in taxes along the way, whether it's capital gains tax for someone that's looking to potentially retire. I know, you know, even in my own riding, I had heard from business owners saying, well, I guess I'm going to have to wait longer now to retire. You know, they're just going to have to put it aside. And the thing with business owners, especially small business owners, is they want to be independent.
Of course.
That's why they're small business owners. So they're looking at you know, holding for their retirement, whether or not it's, you know, to get family members involved or maybe to sell. And so that's their retirement. And so when you look at something like the capital gains tax, it's actually affected their retirement plans. This isn't the wealthiest of the wealthy, like the Liberals and the NDP like to say, where the capital gains will affect only the, you know, the top point, you know, percent of less than 1%. That's not the case at all. And
All right,
we're seeing
let's
that.
dig into that capital gains because for some people that don't know what it is, the Liberal changes, if you will, NDP Liberal changes, let's go there. Anything over 250,000 gets the new rate, which is 67%, I believe. So it's even higher, right? So anyone making those investments for the long term that want to cash out are going to pay ever more in taxes, right? And you're right, it stops that investment. Why are you going to put risk if there's no reward on the other side?
Yeah, and we've seen this in a couple of areas. For example, at the Housing Committee, we've had a lot of testimony there from builders and people that work in construction saying that the capital gains tax will actually be harming home building. And this is at a time when we're in a housing crisis. I have many quotes actually from the Housing Committee. One was from the executive director of the Canadian Roofing Contractors Association, where he was talking about opportunities down in the United States. They have taxes that they have to pay there versus here. It's very real. He's heard it directly firsthand of that they're going, meaning there's businesses going and workers going as well, people that are going down there to work. We've heard from other companies that talk about raising taxes or levies are obviously a negative. Another one talking that they're already seeing land transactions slowing down as a result of the increased capital gains tax. This was the Independent Contractors and Business Association of BC, talking about the capital gains tax having a dampening effect and will have a negative effect on home building for sure, and it goes on.
Sure,
so this isn't, conservatives. These are actual. These are individuals who are working in industries like construction that are saying that this will not be helpful. It's actually going to hurt home construction.
Absolutely, it will, 100%. So home construction, when we're in a housing crisis, we need to accelerate, but of course, it's hard for people to invest because, again, there's no reward. There has to be reward, right? There's risk and reward, right? Nobody's going to put their money into something, break their back working to make it, profitable, and then sell it, and then give almost 70% back to the government.
Yeah, we're seeing this as well in the innovation economy.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of sitting in on the trade committee recently that was doing a study, and the issue of capital gains tax we were asking. I was asking quite a few of the witnesses that were testifying there. So the innovation economy is basically in the tech sector. So there have been many people and businesses and organizations in the tech sector saying that this is actually going to hurt innovation or innovation economy. And this then does flow into what we were talking about earlier, which has to do with the productivity of Canada.
Yeah.
So if we're not innovating, we're not going to be bringing in that investment, and we're not going to be keeping jobs here and creating good jobs.
Well, the majority of jobs that have been created are all government jobs, and we know government does not ensure speedy turnaround, right? It's the exact opposite, right? Their job is to slow things down. So let's play cut one. You'll probably recognize the person you're questioning. I probably don't need to introduce her, but let's play cut one.
As an entrepreneur and as a venture capitalist, will Canada be less competitive for talent, investment, or capital in the global market because of this capital liberal gains tax hike?
Yes. We're going to lose entrepreneurs to other nations who are going to go to more tax-friendly environments. We are going to not be as competitive because we won't have the same amount of capital being put back into entrepreneurs. In particular, if you think about the fact that there is no tax benefit to investing your private capital into helping other businesses get started, and in fact, then you're penalized later on. There's just so many negative connotations to this.
Yeah, we're not even talking. We're talking about the ones already established. But she makes a good point. Arlene Dickinson, who's we all probably know. That's why I didn't introduce her. Very famous. We're not even counting the opportunities that we miss, that Canada misses out on, that goes south or other jurisdictions.
Yeah, absolutely. We're missing out on those opportunities, and we've heard testimony just very similar to this over and over and over again. And this is at a time when we've already lost investment in Canada, whether it's the resource sector or in the innovation economy. We've lost hundreds of thousands of jobs, for example, in the resource sector. And and here we now have emerging entrepreneurs, emerging businesses that Canada's making it more difficult. The Liberals and the NDP are making it more difficult for businesses to start up here, for businesses to have investors invest here, and for workers to stay here. It's like the perfect storm of going in the wrong direction. The Liberals and the NDP, They just need to stop.
Yes, they do. Let's queue up cut two. You'll see the, as we get on this testimony, so those watching and listening at home will see a bit of a pattern here. And the answers are very, very, very heartbreaking. Play cut two.
Will Canada be less competitive for talent investment or capital in the global market because of the Liberal capital gains tax hike?
Certainly. I mean, the short answer is yes.
Thank you. It's been widely reported how Canada's GDP per capita has dropped over the last 9 years. So my question is, will Canada be less competitive for talent, investment, or capital in the global market because of this capital gains tax hike?
I believe so, yes.
The Liberals always talk about this gender-based analysis that they supposedly do on everything they bring in, but that looked like a lot of female entrepreneurs who are saying this is coming upon scary times.
Yeah, absolutely. And so their policies are not, they're not helping. If anything, they're hurting tech companies, they're hurting those that are building housing and all kinds of other industries as well. And so they're not helping people wanting to be entrepreneurs. They're not helping, and by helping I mean from a policy perspective and from a tax perspective, that they're setting a sort of a, like the way that we operate here in Canada is not friendly. It's not friendly for small businesses and for entrepreneurs.
And
they're making it worse.
That's shocking because you think about all the brain power that goes behind starting a business and everything like that, and the long hours and the heartache and the worry. If they go to other jurisdictions, say they move to the United States or something, right? We've lost all of that.
We've lost that intellectual
lost all of that
capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, the intellectual capacity, the jobs, the opportunity, the wealth that we create here, it's all going away because of bad government policy.
And entrepreneurs they're visionaries.
Yes.
They're visionaries. So these are people that have ideas and they want to bring them to fruition. And many times an entrepreneur can't go to a traditional financial institution. You've got to look in other areas and start somewhere or maybe grow. Sometimes that's an issue as well. You might have a business that's doing well, but then you need to expand. And so that's why you need to have people that might want to invest. And if you're creating an environment that is really not in favor of that, it just makes it more difficult for even our existing companies to expand and grow and maybe export as well.
Well, actually, you know what? You made a very good point, too, because as the money leaves the jurisdiction, we want people to put the money in Canadian banks, right? So they then in turn can loan it out and do what they do because people need mortgages, they need cars and whatever, right? Or start a business. We're creating this ever-growing environment where it's just not hospitable to ideas outside the box, right? The government-approved box, and this is extremely frustrating. Anyone that has owned a business, anyone that's looking to start a business, or even a young person coming up that might not want to go the traditional route of starting to work in some corporate structure, that might want to do it their own. But even farmers, right? Like farmers starting their business, we need food, and we're striking down those people who actually want to provide it for us.
Absolutely. Everything that this government is doing is not helping. It's not helping. The tax increases, whether it's the carbon tax increase, whether depending on what industry someone works in, the excise tax increase. You've got the carbon tax increase, the capital gains tax increase. So there's all of these increases, which is why we as Conservatives and our leader, Pierre Poilievre, has said that when we're in government, that we would do a tax reform task force. We're basically going to look at all of the taxes and look at what we can reform in order to make so that people can have more money in their pocket and so that we can really prompt the investment and have those entrepreneurs stay here and help with our productivity in Canada, make our GDP per capita better and make people's lives better.
Yeah, a dollar freed from taxation is a dollar invested in the economy, right? It's not me who said that. I believe it was John F. Kennedy. But the statement holds true, right? The more people, and you just said it, the more money people have in their pockets, the more they spend in the economy. And as the economy grows, new jobs are created. They start buying things. Economic activity starts to churn. And you have the spin-off jobs, right? It just steamrolls from there. But if you you, us as Canadians, are only given a certain amount of choice, whether it be telecoms, airlines, groceries, etc. You're only feeding the big corporations, and the smaller chains are the ones that are suffering or don't start up at all. That's basically where we are.
Yeah, exactly. And many small businesses in particular, many businesses do, but in particular, small businesses reinvest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they
Absolutely.
really don't. There's many small business owners that take, you know, as a personal wage, very low, especially at the very beginning of their business. But they know that, you know, down the road, you know, it'll pay off. All of that investment and all of that hardship early on will pay off. But that sort of vision at the end isn't as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
You know,
and
with,
they're the
with
ones
these tax
sponsoring
changes.
kids' hockey teams or soccer teams or whatever, right? They're the ones investing in the communities in which they live.
Yeah.
And we need to really change the mentality. As you said to the Liberals, just stop.
Just stop.
Please. Please. All right, we're pretty much out of time, but as you know, the guests get the last word. The floor is yours.
It was really great to be here, and just know that that us, you know, as Conservatives, we're out in our communities, we're out across the country listening to people, and really listening. You know, as you saw, just some of a little example of some of the testimony here as to actually how government policy is affecting people and affecting businesses.
Yeah, not necessarily a good way, and we say that out of concern, not to push down the Canadian dream, right? This is concern that we are hearing as members of Parliament from our constituents and those in Liberal and NDP held ridings, right? There is great concern out there.
The
and a
promise
lot
of
word.
Canada.
The promise of Canada.
Bring that back.
Let's bring it home.
Bring it home.
Tracy Gray, always a pleasure. Member of Parliament for Kelowna Lake Country. We appreciate your time. We appreciate yours as well. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this program. If you're on YouTube, hit the bell. Be notified when new content is being made available. New content, as I said, every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next week, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint.